Have you been told that your child has sensory processing disorder, or do they have a really hard time with different textures or tend to freak out when their hands get messy? Sensory bins are great tools to help children overcome these challenges. In this video, I will show you how to make your very own sensory bin and how to keep them interesting to keep your child engaged for hours. Welcome back. As promised, this video will talk about sensory bins. If your child is in occupational therapy or in an early intervention program, then chances are you may already be familiar with sensory bins and all of their benefits. I personally love them and use them with students in a wide age range and with various types of disabilities from autism to anxiety. They are used most often to help children with sensory needs, especially those with a diagnosis of sensory processing disorder. When I recommend them for families, one of the first questions asked is, what is a sensory bin? A sensory bin is actually a container filled with a wide variety of items intended to provide tactile stimulation. The next question for those that I work with that know how much I love them is, why do I like them so much and what is the purpose of a sensory bin? I personally love sensory bins for several reasons. One of them is that they promote exploration. As children begin to understand that there are different treasures hidden inside and that they're capable of finding them, they start to become more curious and engaged. A second reason is that they actually support language development. As your child is playing, you can name items in a bin and ask them to find them or have them tell you what it is that they have found. This is actually a early pre-reading skill. You can then take this to the next level as their language develops and get them to start adding adjectives such as colors, shapes, or sizes to the item to increase their language level. A third reason is that they provide tactile stimulation. As your child digs through the containers, they're using their hands or even their feet and is coming in contact with tons of different textures. This increases their chances of being able to handle different sensations. The fact that they're affordable, compact, and safe is definitely another reason why I love sensory bins. You can buy them already made or make them easily using common everyday items. When your child is not playing with them, you can store them in a closet, under the bed, or sofa to keep things neat. And I'll come back to safety in a minute. My final reason why I like them so much is that they're easy to personalize. Some of our kiddos unfortunately have to go through a lot. Making a sensory bin full of their favorite colors, characters, and items is a great comfort tool and something that they can share with others. Alright, so now I want to go over a couple of reminders and precautions to help make your sensory bin experience a pleasurable one. First, when adding items, make sure that they're not a choking hazard, especially if your child is young or they have a habit of putting everything into their mouth. An easy way to tell if something is safe is to use a paper towel cardboard or the toilet paper cardboard. And if the item actually fits easily inside the roll, you may want to reconsider using it or not using it without strict supervision, because if it's small enough to fit into that opening, it's easy to actually choke on. Another reminder is to never force your child to play in the container. Chances are, if they have sensory issues, when you first introduce the container to them, they're not going to like the way it feels. So you want to ease them into the process, and you can do this by providing them with lots of spoons, bowls, measuring cups, and allow them to use those for digging versus their hands. As they start to get more comfortable, you'll notice that they'll start using their hands more. My final tip is to keep your container clean. This is pretty easy. After your child is finished playing with it, go ahead and spray it with a disinfectant and just let it air dry. And this is a very easy way to stay on top of the cleanliness and keeping germs and bacteria out of your bin. So now the question is most likely, how do I make my wonderful sensory bin? You need a container to keep everything in, and I highly suggest something with a lid, but you can also recycle and just use a box that you may have around the house. The next thing that you'll need is a filler, and this can be a wide variety of things. And the most common items used are rice, noodles, and beans. You can also use those little packing peanuts. Some short-term bins, maybe one that you don't necessarily store but you clean out and you refill another time, would be using shaving cream. But again, I do advise against using things like marbles or sand because of choking risks, and we don't really want sand in our kiddos' mouths, eyes, or hair. And then you want to fill up your bin with some fun items that can be buried and found. So now that you've made your bin, what are you going to do with it? This is actually my favorite part. The most obvious thing that you can do is to allow free play and just let your kid play around and randomly find things. Another option would be to create a homemade hands-on I Spy game, either using a list of things to find or by you simply calling them out. You can take this to the next level by adding time limits to the that they have to find the different items. Sensory bins are appropriate for older kids too. So an activity that you can do with the older guys is to write down sight words or spelling words on index cards and have them find them and match them up to lists. Or you can write down math problems on one index card and then the answers on another, and have them dig around through the container to find a complete math problem. There are really countless things that you can do to creatively use your sensory bin. And if you actually come up with a new and creative approach to using your sensory bin, leave it in our comments below or post it to one of our media pages. And also feel free to send us some pictures of your kiddos with their sensory bins. We look forward to seeing them. Thanks for watching and see you next time.